What's up and welcome back. Today we are going to transform this boxcar from this to this. All right, so welcome back. As I said, today we're going to be weathering this X44B Pennsylvania Railroad boxcar. And sometimes weathering involves just slapping some chalk on a model and clear coating it, or just a little bit of paint. But we're going to get a little bit more detail into this one. This is a pretty neat model. It's got opening doors. It's got a load inside. I also have, I'll put up here on the actual screen too, but I have a photo of a 50-foot X44 boxcar, so pretty close resemblance that I'm going to use for reference. Always good to use a photo for reference whenever you're doing some weathering. I thought it would be good in this occasion as well, since these two are not exact, but super close. All right, so items I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using some pan pastels, all right, some weathering chalk. I'm going to be using an India ink wash, all right, which is basically just watered down India ink. It's 2 teaspoons of India ink in a pint of 70% isopropyl alcohol. Please do not use 90% like you sometimes see on the internet. 90% will take the paint off of your model. All right, so be careful with that, especially these small end scale models. It'll just strip the paint right off. All right, so a few things we have going on. First thing I'm going to do, I have a little dish here as well that I'm going to put my parts in, because believe it or not, we're going to take this baby apart. All right, and that's how we're going to start. Grab a little flathead screwdriver there. I'm going to get these trucks out, and I'm going to take the wheel sets out as well. And as you can see, this car is, just be careful prying them up and putting everything in this little dish, because we don't want to lose anybody. All right, again, nice car. It's got body mounted couplers. These couplers are also brown, which I'm not a fan of. All right, next thing we're going to do is, you might not think this is necessary, but we are going to pop the floor out of here. And you can see we've got a load in there. A few crates, less than carload actually. And then we're going to take this door off. And these doors are very simple to get off. We're just going to peel this up and angle this down, and it's going to come right off its track and come out here. All right, and the doors I will leave right here. And you might not think that's necessary, but when you're doing when you want to more detail a car, I think it's important to have everything apart. So now we have our shell here. All right, we have our inside here. And you can see this is actually a nice metal framed inside floor here. It's got a bunch of detail. I'm going to paint some of this detail, because as nice as this boxcar is, it is molded in all of the same color, including these trucks, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. All right. So first thing I'm going to do here is I have an injection molded little piece there on top of the boxcar. And that kind of thing drives me a little crazy. So I'm going to see if I can sand that down a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. I'm just going to take a little bit of that off with this sanding stick. All right. And even my fingernail a little bit. Wouldn't bother me if it wasn't like right on top of the boxcar in the middle. So there we go. That's gone. Looks better. Might be hard to figure that out on camera. All right. Now, what some people do at this point is they dull coat the car. I usually don't. I'm going to give my India ink here a shake, and you can see I'm wearing an old t-shirt. I have paper towels down on top of my work surface. I'm going to take this India ink top off of here and set that aside. I'm going to put some gloves on for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want my hands all stained with India ink. But two, gloves, more importantly than having my hand stained, will I'll not leave any fingerprints on the model. All right, so we got our India ink going. I got a nice wide brush here that I use for my India ink from Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to start here on the roof. Just give it a nice coat. Don't worry, don't freak out. It's going to be fine. I don't like to leave a lot of excess up there. And then with it covered, what I'm going to do is just come down the sides. All right. And it's important, hopefully you can see this on here, to come down in one full motion. And it might run a little bit. What I like to try to do is not have it too heavy over the number boards. The Herald, I don't care as much. And then we'll get some on the end just to even this coat out. And then we will set her here to dry. Trying to be careful not to handle it too much. But you can see now why I wear gloves. The other thing we want to do is we want to make sure that I'm getting the instep here. All right, because these doors open, you are going to see it. And get underneath that rail. And hopefully we're good there. Nice. Next thing I'm going to do is hit these doors. And I haven't even reloaded this brush, if you notice. Just one brush across, and then also we're going to do this interior. And that will give the entire car a nice uniform look. And while I'm at it, all right. So then all we have to do is let this stuff dry. All right, and you can see why I take it apart, because what you'll have is you'll have bare spots behind these doors that you can never get to. All right, so we got that apart. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prep these trucks for paint. So this is what I do when I got to spray some small parts. I have this basically paint stick. I wrap some masking or painter's tape around it, whatever I have, and I stick it to that, and then I will hit this with just basically some Tester's black, because I don't know, I don't think these trucks should be brown. They might be a little rusty after I weather them, but if we look at our picture, they're pretty black with actually some light gray weathering, so that's what we're going with. All right, so I'm going to hit these off camera, and I'll be right back. All right, so now you can see this is starting to dry. It's obviously mostly alcohol, so it dries pretty quick. This is already got a little bit of a toned down kind of dirt weathered look to it. And when you look at our reference picture, you can see that that Boxcar basically has just a coating of dirt on it. It looked pretty old. One of the things that we are going to be using, we're using some Vallejo paints today. And I'm going to start with this leather brown, because there's a few boards on here. You can see on the door right here, and you can see on the end right here that there's a few things I just want to highlight a little bit. Those are usually some wooden plaques that are on the Boxcars. All right. And when I use my Vallejo paint, I have a little Jello shot glass there, and let me see if I gotta shake this a little bit more. I do. It's not happy yet. And I've got a 5/0 brush. If you model an N scale, you're going to be using 5/0 brushes probably more frequently than you would like. There we go. All right. And I'm just going to take this here. Hopefully we can see this, and I can do this on camera so you're seeing it. Might not be able to. I'm going to have to hold it so I can see it. And this is subtle. This is on the end of the car. And if I'm going to do something like this that I haven't necessarily done a whole lot of before, I will do it on the end of the car, just like that. Because that's not a spot you're going to see a whole heck of a lot. So that's what we're going to do. That first one there on the end of the car. We'll touch this next one up on the other end of the car. And there you go. All right, not too much, just a little bit of contrast. These doors are going to turn out the same way here. I might need a little bit more light. And you notice at this point I'm still handling this car for the most part with the rubber gloves. I don't like to paint with one, but what I'm handling with is a rubber glove. All right. And again, sometimes weathering and detailing is just putting some chalk on a car, but it can be more. There we go. Just keep a little cocktail glass here of water. And just rinse that brush out. You're obviously not putting a ton of paint on it to get this job done. But hopefully there you can see that. And that's going to be a subtle detail, but it's nice. It should dry up very nice. We've also got some handles on here, which are usually the same color. I don't think I'm going to mess with those. Those are such a slight raised detail. And then we've got our floor, which I can touch up one or two of these floorboards. And I have a couple of shades of brown here. I have a mahogany brown as well. We have all of these crates inside that are the same color. And these are both Vallejo paints. This mahogany brown I've obviously used a little bit more often. All right, so we've got a few crates up here. I might just try and paint one of these top ones a different color brown here. All right. I'll mix in some of that mahogany, maybe get this other one. Don't have to paint the back of it, because certainly nobody is going to see that. But if these doors are open, they could see these boxcars up front here. All right, so that looks good. So starting to add a little bit of interest in there. All right. We've also got a hobo in here. It's kind of interesting. All right. But in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll just give this brush just a little bit of water on there, come across here, and then just take my finger and just give it a little bit of a smear. And you'll see that when we start weathering with the chalk, this will all kind of come together a little bit more. All right. I'm debating on painting this little hobo guy here. So I don't think anybody's going to see him. All right. There we go. So underneath of this car, we have some of these details, a lot of which you're not going to see, but this big brake cylinder here, I think you are going to see. So I'm going to get some black here, and I'm going to paint that brake cylinder black. All right. Again, you're underneath the car, so you're not going to see maybe all that much of this. But I'm going to get some of these structures that you may see here a little bit more black. The other thing I'm going to do is these couplers here. I'm going to hit these couplers with just a little bit of paint. I don't like to put too much paint on couplers because I don't want them binding up. They also take a beating. But what I am going to do is I will hit them with some pan pastels, and that will finish the job. I'm just going to put a very, not quite a dry brush on them of black, but very, very light coat of black here on these couplers, so that they look a little bit more decent. All right. Oh, very good. Coming along nicely. We're going to start to get some chalk in here. All right, so these pan pastels are a blessing, a kind of a blessing and a curse with these. Looking at our picture, It's kind of like a dark gray. I'm going to use a black on some of it, but and when I get the color here, I'll show it to you. All right. I've got a gray. I've also got black here. What I don't want, this is the gray. This is the other gray that I like. All right. What I don't want is I don't want a gray that starts to lend into a blue. That's really what I don't want. And you can see by my chalks here, this is like a kind of what I use for a dirt color here. All right, and this is the black. See, I use these a lot. And then I've got this this gray going on here. So I'm going to put these pan pastels aside for a second. And I'm going to start working on the roof of this car. This is definitely someplace where you want to wear a glove. But it's interesting. I'm looking at my picture here. I'm going to put the brakes on the chalk for a second. And I have some dents up here. I'll show you. See, like I was saying, looking at my picture, I have a few dents here. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of gray here. I'm going to wet my brush first. Brush got a little dry. You got to be careful with these 5 and 10-aught brushes. They start to get dry. I'm going to take a little gray. I'm going to take a little black. So I'm kind of in between, maybe more on the gray. I'm going to wipe some of this off. And looking at my picture, I'm even going to go, I can go like a panel over. There's a little dent there. And then I've got one up here that's yeah, very good. I can do the same thing on the other side, maybe a little bit different. Just nice and subtle. You do want it to make it look more random than something that, like, you don't want to, like, have it perceived as, like, you were writing a number or something like that. But, yep, so I got those dents in there. Again, not much, just a little something. All right, and I'm going to let that dry for just a minute. While that's drying, I can start on my doors. And you can see there's a fair amount of, on this photo, there is a fair amount of dirt and gray on these doors. I'm going to start with my dirt color here. And again, just in a simple motion here, I'm just going to work this chalk in, but I'm going to make sure that I am kind of coming down with it. And it's okay at this point. I can even pop a little gray in here, mix these together. It's okay if this goes on heavy. All right, don't be afraid of this right now, because this is going to get toned down a great deal when we clear coat this at the end. All right, so that one's there. It's looking good. And it's, you know, anywhere from like half to 3/4 of the way up. So what I like to do is start up top, and then as you come down where it's close to the ground, we're really going to grind it in and make it heavier. And now this is where some people will say they put a coat of dull coat on this model so that it gives the powder something to bite into a little bit harder. But I think with the alcohol, what works for me is just that quick alcohol wash at the beginning. It works really nice. All right, so inside here, and now you can see things start to get a little messy with the chalk. All right, so now we're going to come inside here, and I'm going to give, there's going to be obviously dirt all over the place. And I don't necessarily have to do this whole thing because you're never going to see up here at the ends. I'll give it just a little bit of black in there, because the black, I'm telling you, a little bit goes a long way. And I'm going over rail to rail all the way to either side. All right, and you can see where I got some variation where it looked kind of rough where I painted that before. But now, once you've gotten some pastel powder in there, I can work this in. What I also have here is I have a makeup applicator, and this makeup applicator really also does a good job, but where it doesn't do a good job is getting into these corners. So you got to feather that in so it doesn't look like you have a line there. All right, so that's what we've got going on. I'll hit the bottom of this just with some powder, just to kind of blend in what we painted. All right, not too much rocket science there. And now it's time for the body. So with the body, we can see we've got a couple of spots on our picture where dirt is definitely concentrated. We also have the rails that this slides on, which is pretty heavily kind of grayed dirt. So that's why I've got this gray here, and I want to start to work this gray in, which matches my gray pretty closely. All right. So we'll get that in, and then we can start to work this dirt. Now, the dirt's going to be kind of heavier by the wheels, and I'm just getting a nice coat down bottom here. One thing I do not want to do is I do not want to start putting a lot of powder over the car numbers. So it's you definitely don't want a ton of powder over these car numbers. It's you won't be able to read them. All right. So I've used my makeup applicator there to get some. All right, now we'll tone this whole car down here. And again, this will be not as heavy as it seems here. All right. All right, on the roof, I do like to get a fair amount of black stippled in here. These roofs here, a lot of soot. All right. And then you can see how this starts to kind of blend. All right. And hopefully you can start to see this on camera. I'm trying to be very careful not to touch this with my bare hand at this point, because I do not want to leave a fingerprint. So on the edges, on the ends here, the ends are just loaded with dirt. But now you can see how that board that I painted stands out just a little bit, right? And you can see black dirt and railroad soot always accumulates around these ladders. And then we'll get the other end as well. So we'll come in here with our dirt. I call it dirt. It's like a umber kind of. All right, and then get some black around there, and looking not bad. All right, and this is the thing, like there's really no mistakes to be made here. All right, very good, very good. That's looking nice. Then we're going to repeat this same thing on the other side. I'm going to rub my gray into here pretty healthily. then I can start getting my bottom weathering going on here pretty good. I don't care too much about the weight, the detail side over here, as much as I care about the car number side. I do not like to have super heavy weathering over the car number side. I have done this. It does not work out well for you. Makes it tough to read, especially on an N scale railroad. And you can see I'm just feathering this in. Now, one thing we're missing here that there's not a ton of on my reference photo is some rust. And I do like some rust on my rail cars. So I've got the color here. This is like a kind of like a rusty brown. You can see here. And to put this on, what I am going to use is a micro applicator. All right, and the reason I use this micro applicator is because I don't want it on a wide swath of the car, right? So I want rust coming down at some spots where, obviously, maybe rust might be coming down, like off of these doors, right? And this is a round boxcar, so the effect isn't necessarily as much. But you can see there, you're getting a little bit of rust. And where else you'll see it is if you pull this down over the herald, you'll start to see some rust come down there. So I like rust coming down off that door there. You'll see that. Try and come down there as straight as possible. The other place you see rust accumulating is on these joints. Coming down from corners. And then just take my brush and kind of feather that down the way. All right. So, same thing on this side. What you want to make sure is you're coming straight down. And then you get your brush there. We fade that out. Kind of blend it together. And there we go, looking a little bit better. I might just take one of these Q-tip applicators that I have here and grind that in a little bit more. All right, there we go. Looking good. So, we're to the point there where the next thing we have to do is clear coat this. So I'm obviously not going to paint it here at the desk. I'm going to take it back and I'll clear coat this up, and I'll show you what we've got when we're done. All right, so we got our clear coated. We got everything clear coated. Also, we have the trucks that are painted here. And sometimes this happens. You can see I say when you put the chalk on heavy, after you clear coat it, a lot of times the chalk gets very diluted. One of the downsides that I think people will say of weathering with chalk but I do like the technique. So now we got a little clear coat on. I'm actually going to come in here. I'm going to work another layer of chalk on here after the clear coat. We'll see how it takes. I need a glove. Indubitably, whatever word you want to use there. You will leave fingerprints. You will leave fingerprints on your model, and you will always see them. And I don't know how to get rid of them. All right, so getting a little more of that lower base layer of dirt. Kind of rubbing it in now with a sponge. Not being real gentle. Doesn't have to be real gentle. Can also come back here with this gray. Get in there with the gray. Both of these rails are kind of gray. All right, and I'm going to come in here with my rust. Pull some rust down here. And then sometimes that rust looks a little harsh. I'll just hit it with a brush and start to work it in layers there. All right. Especially on this other side, these doors. That's where you're going to see those rust trails kind of come down. Plus, on occasion, these creases in the boxcar. So again, working up there, looking a little bit better. I will also leave links to all of the stuff that I use here. As always, whenever I leave a link, I always say support your local hobby store if you still have one. And obviously, if they're being reasonable. All right, looking good there. And then what I will do is I will essentially just apply another coat of clear coat to this. All right, I'm gonna do the same in these doors that you just saw me do, and I'll be right back with you. All right, so I have a new paper towel down here. As we can see, we have our boxcar, and it is just now time to put it back together. Sometimes these doors can be a little challenging. All right, I got one door on. Got the other door on, much easier. Next thing I'll do is get these trucks on. There we go. That one's on. There we go. Those are on. Very good. And then we will get our top back onto our boxcar here. that will lock into place. And there we go. Now you can see inside, I got a little detail of the, I'm glad I didn't paint the hobo, he's way back there. But I got a little detail with the painted boxes. The doors are weathered nicely. We can see we got those dents in there. All in all, the car is really not too heavily weathered. And as I said, the doors get a little bit tighter, which is a good thing. And you can see why I removed the doors, because the weathering on the doors, just like the picture, is a little bit different actually than the weathering of the car. And there you go. So let's get it back on the layout, and I'll show you a shot and give you a before and after. And there's our after shot. Slightly weathered Boxcar. Again, not everything has got to look like it was it's been beat up. So I think it looks pretty good. I'm glad I used a reference picture and got those little gray pieces, those little gray dents up in there. I wouldn't have done that otherwise. All right, so there you go. A little weathering video. First time I shot a video like this. I know you guys haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of modeling. But, you know, weathering is, again, no mistakes to be made, but individual tastes. And every car is going to look different on the railroad, which is one reason I don't batch weather. I will sit down and maybe weather one or two cars here and there, but I will not sit down and batch weather because I don't want things kind of looking the same. The other thing is photos do make a big difference. I didn't weather this car to look exactly like this photo, but I did take some details from it, such as those wood boards that I painted individually and some of the like the dent scrapes from the doors that I put in there as well. And let me know, some people don't weather cars at all. Me, at a minimum, you're going to get a wash of the India ink that I have here. I do have some other washes, this Hunter line stuff that I bought recently at a trade show. You might have seen in the last video. I'll link up above here. But I haven't used that on, I haven't used it at all, really. And the other thing you can get, I will link all of this stuff that I used in this video down below, is the India ink. All right. So let me know your thoughts, and hopefully you're still watching, and you can hit that subscribe button for me and give me a thumbs up and ring the bell. And thanks for watching. I'm George. I'll see you in the next one.